there's a lot of men and women that are trying to extend the time between their washes for whatever reason. And I say, if you're a dry shampoo user, you may as well be using something that's actually helping your scalp be healthier.
Now a message from Sun Pharmaceuticals. For patients with locally advanced basal cell carcinoma who are not candidates for further surgery or radiation, hedgehog pathway inhibitors offer a targeted systemic approach. Staying current on these therapies can help you expand options for appropriate patients. Welcome to That's Derm Good. Today, my guest is Erica Ramos, CEO of Raven Innovations and the founder of Restore Scalp. She is also a dermatology physician assistant. Thank you for joining me, Erica. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Janelle. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited to talk with you today.
Yes, me too. So many things to unpack and talk about. But first of all, you were in the military.
I
correct?
was in the military. I spent 10 years in the Guard and Reserve. So,
Okay.
Part of a big military family. My dad, brothers, my nephew's serving now. My husband retired from the military. So we're just surrounded by veterans.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, I have I have a few brothers that are in the military. My grandfather is in the Army, my brother, Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force. So yeah, we have a lot of military in our family as well.
Yeah, thank them for their service as well.
Yes. So your LinkedIn page starts with you saying your medical career in combat boots. I love that.
I started out as enlisted and as a medic in the military. And then I went through officer candidate school and then got accepted into the PA program through the military as well. So that's how I got my PA training, was through the military.
Okay. And then what brought you into dermatology?
Dermatology is exactly what I wanted from the time that I started my PA school. And it's funny we mentioned the military because that's the reason I didn't get dermatology the first time I came out of school. So, I ended up meeting another PA in PA school and ended up marrying him, and he was active duty. So that meant that we got stationed in all these different places. And the first one was Fort Campbell, Kentucky, little tiny town, and Clarksville, Tennessee, actually, is where the base is. And, there's just the only thing available was family practice. So I followed him around for years and toggled back and forth between family practice, emergency medicine. And then when we came here to San Antonio, got into rheumatology. And it wasn't really until he retired from the military that he said, thanks for supporting me all these years. Now go get what you've always wanted. And so then I really focused on trying to get into derm at that time.
Wow, that is cool. So rheumatology and dermatology kind of collide a bit. Do you see a lot of that kind of crossover with that rheumatology training?
Yeah, I saw that also as a springboard for getting into dermatology because of the overlap, because of the disease processes and the biologic medications and the disease modifying medications that kind of cross over between those two specialties. So there's a lot of coordination that goes on between the two as well. And so I found that even though I was in rheum, I was having a lot of conversations with the dermatologists and was actually able to precept, because I'd gone through the rheumatology fellowship. I ended up precepting a lot of the dermatology residents as they came through rheum on their rotations, which was really cool.
Yeah. So what do you love the most about dermatology?
I love that there's still a lot to think about as far as disease process. You almost think skin is easy, right? In school, you think, okay, I'm just going to put a steroid on it. And if that makes it worse, I'm going to put a antifungal on it. But skin is our largest organ. And the book of dermatology, Habif and Andrews, all these books are thick. There's so much to know. And, even when you think you know everything, you've still got some genetic things that can affect the skin. And so there's a lot of things that can just still stump you. There's a lot of rashes that can look exactly the same. And so you've got a differential diagnosis. You almost a lot of times are like a detective and using your dermatoscope and using your dermatopathologist to really figure out the puzzle. So I love that. And then I really like doing procedures as well.
Nice. So do you work with a lot of veterans as well still, or is it mostly private practice now?
I would say majority private practice, but then we also do have veterans that use Champ VA and get referrals into civilian practices to be seen as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can't get you in a certain amount of time in the VA, then they will allow you to be seen in the community.
Okay. So you are a woman-owned, women-led startup. How did that begin? How did your entrepreneur journey begin?
This is really funny because if you'd asked me even 5 years ago if I would own my own company, I would have told you absolutely not. It was my husband that had that entrepreneurial spirit. But a little bit before COVID, I kept feeling like I was saying the same thing to patients, which was, hey, these over the counter medicines work. It's just you're not leaving them on long enough, or you're rinsing them off before they have a chance to work. And I think I just, in the moment of saying that 10 to 15 times a day, decided there needed to be something that could just easily be left on the scalp. And it took me a couple of years to actually gain the confidence and the nerve to reach out and ask if anybody knew somebody in product development that I could, use as a mentor. And I was
Mm-hmm.
lucky enough to get that mentor that really helped me learn how to open a company, learn how to search the FDA ingredients and, have an
Mm.
FDA consultant. So I really feel very lucky that I met the right people. A lot of this is who you know and who you ask the questions of, and was surrounded by people that just helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah. So what does that look like when you're doing all of that research? How much time does that take? I mean, you were still practicing and doing all this research on the side. How long did that actually take for you to get everything together and to actually bring a product to market?
Yeah, it was 3 years of work between speaking with the mentor that was able to kind of step in, and he owned his own company as well. So he was doing that just out of the kindness of his heart, helping me. He's got his own small pharmaceutical company. And so that finding a chemist, going back and forth with the chemist, and like you said, researching ingredients. So I used PubMed to research. I wanted everything to be based in science. And so even though we've got a lot of natural ingredients in our product, I wanted to be able to reach back to a medical study and say, this is why I chose this ingredient. And so I handpicked every ingredient that I wanted to go into Restore Scalp and gave it to the chemist and said, can we put these all together and make a dry shampoo?
Hmm. I love that. So, I mean, I feel like when you're creating a product, there's so much time and effort that goes into. What were some of the frustrations during that process that you had? Were you ever like, if this doesn't ever get done, if I don't get this done quick enough, somebody else is going to come up with the idea, or, what were some of those challenges that you were seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. In the first 3 years, I was tight-lipped. I didn't want anybody to know about it because I really did think somebody would steal my idea.
Mm-hmm.
If my husband mentioned it to somebody, I'm like, zip it, stop. But I started to realize like we needed these connections, and the people that really like helped and stepped in really helped kind of springboard us to where we are now. We did learn, we had people sign non-disclosures and a lot of non-disclosures in the beginning. And, you look back and you're like, I don't know if those were necessary, but it makes you feel better in the beginning that nobody's
Mm-hmm.
going to take and talk about your idea and steal it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Restore Scalp, what exactly it is and why this is so needed in the market today.
So Restore Scalp is the first and only medicated dry shampoo in the world that I can find. And the reason it's medicated is because we used an ingredient called salicylic acid, super gentle. I use it on a lot of my most sensitive skin patients in dermatology. And I used it because it exfoliates, and salicylic acid also kind of dives down into pores and follicles and gets rid of debris and oil. And the other really cool thing about it is that it can actively reduce oil over time. And it has some kind of antimicrobial properties to it as well. So it kind of, it's trusted by the FDA as a treatment for seborrheic dermatitis and psoriasis. And we wanted to be within that, what they call the FDA monograph space, which is considered an over-the-counter drug, but also we're bridging this gap between cosmetic as well, because I want people to be able to trust it as a dry shampoo. So we're in this cosmeceutical space. So, it has the drug facts panel. It's an over-the-counter medication, but still something people can just use for beauty and clarifying and exfoliating in between their washes.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, I've tried a few different dry shampoos, and I always feel like, some of them, they smell good. Some don't have a good smell. Some they stick in your hair. Like, how does this one work in your hair, and how does it make it so that people that are dealing with seborrheic dermatitis or psoriasis are able to use it and not feel like they've got this, just product or buildup in their hair?
Yep. That's a great question. So we are targeting the scalp with Restore Scalp. So the whole point of it is scalp health. That said, we're a lot different than every other dry shampoo on the market. So a lot of dry shampoos, they're aerosolized. So people are spraying it from, way out here and just kind of powdering their hair. Because ours is about scalp health, we actually want you to part and powder your scalp. And so that's different, because a lot of people say don't get your dry shampoo on your scalp because they're worried about it clogging the follicles and affecting the health of your hair. We actually want the powder on your scalp because we have an ingredient in it that's actually going to make your scalp healthier. And so that's one big difference with ours. And another is it's not aerosolized, so no benzene. We don't have any talc in it. So, and then we've got a lot of natural ingredients that help with itch, inflammation, and kind of just help with moisture and detoxifying. So a lot of ingredients are just all circled around scalp health. So you want to part powder, get it on your scalp, and you don't have to worry about it occluding your follicles, because we're actually helping to, while the powder is sitting there, it's helping to exfoliate and clarify.
Okay. So do you rub it in, or does it just absorb naturally into your scalp?
So once you kind of you'll part, powder, and part all the way around. I kind of tell people now, I just pull up like I'm going to put it in a ponytail and powder all the way around, because it's more time, effective with your time. So you're getting through it a little bit quicker. Afterwards, the powder's super light. So you'd asked about texture before. It's super silky. So you're not going to really feel it in your hair. You're not going to feel that texture like you feel with other dry shampoos. Once you spray it in, you're going to do just a little light tousle of your hair, and that powder will literally fall down onto your scalp. And it'll end up hitting kind of our natural oils of our scalp and sitting right where you put it. You're not going to feel that texture on your scalp. Mine is not fragranced. And I did that because I see in dermatology, we see a lot of contact allergens, and fragrance is one of the top on the list of things that people end up being allergic to. So I think a lot of traditional dry shampoos are really just there soaking up oil, right? And they're covering up odor with a bunch of fragrance.
Right.
And ours is actually, yes, soaking up oil like other dry shampoos, but we're actively reducing oil over time. And we don't need it to be fragranced, because we're actually getting rid of the things that cause odor, which is dead skin cell, debris, oil, all this stuff from the environment that just kind of layers onto our scalp. So the next time you wash, everything's really being effectively exfoliated because
Mm.
you had that medicine sitting on there, and we get rid of the things that cause odor.
Yeah, that makes so much more sense too. I mean, the reason why people are using dry shampoos are really to, well, usually if it's just for cosmetic use, it's just to in between washes and kind of take away some of that oil. So if somebody has, seborrheic dermatitis, how often should they use this? And how often should they actually wash their hair?
Mm-hmm. With seborrheic dermatitis, the more we wash our hair, the better. So you'll go into your dermatologist and you'll say, I'm only, washing my hair twice a week, let's say, because our stylists have effectively convinced us that, we want to be kinder on our hair strands. We're going to dry our hair out if we wash more. But I always tell people, like, we would never go 5 days without washing our body.
Mm,
And our scalp is skin. So our scalp actually really loves to be washed. Um, I think it really depends on how thick the scale is. So if you've got light dandruff, so a non-inflammatory version of seborrheic dermatitis, you might only have to use the medicated dry shampoo like twice a week to really keep those light flakes away. But if you've got really severe seborrheic dermatitis that has real thick, greasy yellow scale and that redness, kind of like cradle cap when we see babies, right?
mm, yeah.
If it's really thick, then you're probably going to want to use it more like 5 days a week. Or, there's people that still wash every day, but once your hair is dry, you can powder and restore scalp. And the beauty of doing that is that you've got medicine sitting there all day long, even though
Mm,
you're a daily washer.
okay. Now a message from Sun Pharmaceuticals. For patients with locally advanced basal cell carcinoma who are not candidates for further surgery or radiation, hedgehog pathway inhibitors offer a targeted systemic approach. Staying current on these therapies can help you expand options for appropriate patients. Yeah, that makes sense. So, since it's over the counter and a lot of times people like to self diagnose, what would you tell people when they're looking at this and trying to figure out, why they should use it? Is this good for just anyone to use, even if they're not dealing with psoriasis or seborrheic dermatitis, or what other conditions would it help to treat?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes when people come in, it's even a little bit difficult for us as dermatologists to figure out too, is this sebderm or is this psoriasis?
Mm,
So the FDA considers salicylic acid a treatment for seborrheic dermatitis and psoriasis.
mm,
So if you're kind of sitting in the middle, or there's this other condition called sebopsoriasis, where, people can have psoriasis, which is an autoimmune disorder, the immune system attacking the skin, but you're still not immune from getting seborrheic dermatitis. All of us have the potential of having that. It's just a natural occurrence that happens to humans. And there's this thought that maybe they're just some people that are a little bit more susceptible to having that malesthesia affect and irritate their skin.
mhm,
So some people can even have that crossover. So that's, Restore Scalp or anything with salicylic acid in it is something that bridges that gap between psoriasis and sebderm.
mhm.
The other thing about not having those conditions, yeah, you most definitely can still use Restore Scalp. And I think of it as a great way, again, to exfoliate and clarify your scalp in between your washes. There's a lot of men and women that are trying to extend the time between their washes for whatever reason. And I say, if you're a dry shampoo user, you may as well be using something that's actually helping your scalp be healthier.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many out there that have a lot of alcohol in them, a lot
Mhm.
of fragrance, and they're just kind of gross. Like the stuff in the product, it just makes your hair feel worse. And I remember trying one time, and I'm like, after I put it in there, I'm like, I gotta go wash my hair. I can't walk around with this.
Oh, I really love to be able to just kind of rub my fingers through my hair, and I don't know how people do that with a ton of product on.
Yes, I know. It's crazy. Maybe this is my like social media feed, which is wild, but I feel like I've been seeing a lot of products on for seborrheic dermatitis lately.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really wild.
Yeah. There are a lot. There's really a lot. It's good that everybody's talking about scalp health. I do think it's been a
Mm-hmm.
trend, especially with all of the head spas coming out as well. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
those that are up and coming. I think a lot of people are trying to take these traditional shampoos that we've had for decades and make them a little bit more, friendly to the skin, and trying to reduce all of these trigger words of
Mm-hmm.
ingredients that people don't want to use anymore. And
Right.
I think that's why there's been a little bit of an uptick in all these newer brands coming out, because they're trying to just make it, so that we're avoiding some of these ingredients.
Yeah. So you are also a course instructor at National Trichology Training Institute.
I had met Connie Judge, who's the founder of the National Trichology Institute, at a cosmetic conference, which we do some of these cosmetic conferences as well, the Premier Beauty Conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spoken with them, given them a class, and then I also recorded a class for them to use for any of their students. And it was a great connection to have. She really helped us get into the Premier Beauty conventions.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've started actually teaching at those conventions as well. So when we go to one of the premier events, I'll teach 2 classes on scalp health to trichologists and beauty specialists.
Yeah, that is really cool. So, which my background has been cosmetology as well. I have my cosmetology license. And I always thought it was really cool just that, how dermatology and trichology kind of go so well together. Do you see a lot of that collaboration in the derm space or not as much?
I don't think so. I think it was this bridge that just hadn't exist. And I think it's great for, hairstylists have way more time in the seat with their clients. They're
Mm-hmm.
staring at people's heads for an hour or 2 hours while they're doing somebody's hair. And in derm, we benefit from that because
Mm-hmm.
they're referring people into us for their seborrheic keratosis, or this new bump on the scalp that they've never seen, or hair loss. And I don't see that there's a lot of reciprocation in the other direction, where we're helping train them on what they're looking at. And so
Yeah.
they just know it's not right. Hey, I've seen these before. You should probably go see your dermatologist. And so the classes I've been giving when we are at Premier have been really well received. I sat on a panel with the Trichology Institute at a different conference as well. And a lot of the questions were geared towards me because it was about alopecia. And I just think that there's
Mm-hmm.
this part where there could be a little bit more conversation, at least, maybe not collaboration, but a lot more conversation on supporting the people that are referring a lot of patients to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Because trichology is focused on specifically on the hair, right?
Mhm.
More, not as much the scalp. Is
Yeah,
that
I would
correct?
say all dermatologists and dermatology advanced practitioners are trichologists, right? We use a
Mm-hmm.
dermatoscope, which is a scope that helps us look at the follicles. The trichology profession is a way for these beauty folks and hair salons to have somebody that specializes in the hair follicle, where they're
Mm-hmm.
using something very similar to our dermatoscopes to look at the scalp. So you'll see that trichologist identification more so in the beauty industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on all of the, I guess, new and exciting talk about scalp health and with some of these head spas? I think it's cool that people are learning a little bit more about it and I guess wanting to take care of their scalp and I guess understanding a little bit more about, it's more than just washing your hair.
Mhm. Definitely. Yeah, I think that they're bringing awareness to scalp health.
Hmm.
And I think it's great because people are getting in there and they're kind of one, it's soothing. It's literally the equivalent of a facial, right? Where we go in there, we get rid of dead skin cell, we clear out pores. And so these head spas are doing the same thing for people's scalps.
Hmm.
And it is super helpful. It's not, I wouldn't consider it like like a medicine that's treating it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's a way to augment people's treatments for sure. And I think as a dermatology PA, I always tell people I'm more interested in the recipe we use, right? I think people come in and they want that one thing that's going to make them better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I'm going to give you these 3 things as tools that you can reach for when something's getting worse. And this is when you use each tool. And the head spa is another tool in your toolbox. You can go in and you
Right.
can keep your scalp cleaned and relax and de-stress all in
Mm-hmm.
one.
Right. I like that. So let's talk a little bit about patients that are coming in to see you that have maybe just a really bad flare with subderm or severe psoriasis. Would they be using like another topical product, and then could they use Restore Derm as like their maintenance kind of in between in conjunction with another prescription?
Yeah, I actually have a patient in mind right now. She had psoriasis and
Mm-hmm.
was wondering, do I stop all of my medicines? And this is kind of the same conversation as I just said. I love recipes
Mm-hmm.
in treating people. And so I said, absolutely not. Do not stop your medicine. But my hope is that you're going to have to use your medicine less because we're going to get to a point where we're exfoliating and helping you get rid of all that scale.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're not going to have to reach to your medicines as much because we're getting that exfoliation in there with the Restore Scalp.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I love that. So you were recently featured in the Dermatology Times. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what that means to you and your mission?
It was an honor to be interviewed and put in the Dermatology Times. And Renata also split it into 2 features. And so I was able to be in Dermatology Times twice. For me, that was a really big moment. It was a big honor. And I really just want to keep, as a dermatology PA, of course, I want to keep within our space and keep the messaging going. But I do want all of my dermatology colleagues to know that this other tool is available for them to use for their patients. And so it was just an exceptional honor to be able to be featured, but then
Mm-hmm.
also just a great opportunity for Restore Scalp to be able to get the message out that we're here and we exist. Because I
Yeah.
think that's the hardest part of making a product is just it works great and it's super gentle and easy to use, but a lot of people still don't know we exist.
Mm. Yeah, definitely getting the information out there is huge. And I don't have any subderm or psoriasis, but I kind of want to want to try it just for exfoliation. And I mean, yeah, it sounds like a good product.
Yeah.
Um, what
Do you use dry shampoos ever?
I do every now and then, but like I said, I just have not been happy with any of them. So, I stopped kind of using them.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of
Yeah.
people, once they touch and feel the product, be super happy with that it doesn't leave a texture. It's just
Hmm.
super silky. So you
Yeah.
have that
That's
texture
what you
left.
want. You want your hair to feel silky and
Yep,
clean, not gritty and gross.
yep, yeah.
So, what would you say to other clinicians or PAs or even doctors that are wanting to build their own product? What advice would you give them about innovation
I
in this
think
space?
that you just have to take one step at a time. It can be super overwhelming to sit there in the beginning and think about all the things that you have to do, or maybe you don't know what the first step is.
Hmm.
And so I think surrounding yourself with a network of people who do know what to do, even though you don't. There's a lot of companies out there, if you're just wanting to make a cosmetic product, there's a
Hmm.
lot of companies out there that will take you from A to Z, formulating all the way to packaging if you're just wanting to make a cosmetic product.
Hmm.
By cosmetic, just nothing medicated. You can't make claims it treats something, right? If you're wanting to do more of an over the counter FDA medicine, within the FDA monograph, then you do need to have kind of some specialized people, specific chemist who's worked within those confines. You need an FDA consultant. You need your manufacturer to be somebody that's inspected by the FDA. So there's a lot more hoops to go through if you're wanting to be an over-the-counter medication. But the benefit of doing that is that then you can actually claim you treat something. So I think if you're looking at it, it's definitely doable. It's just you literally have to take every day one step at a time. What's my next challenge? And try not to think of it as one whole bubble, because if you do, you're going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I also think that if you've got a great idea, trust yourself, because there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to try and tell you it's a bad idea, or, and sometimes it's even that self-doubt kind of sets in. And so you really have to just trust yourself and keep going, even though sometimes it feels like it's probably a little hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So that FDA process, is that a long time is there like an FDA approval? Because I know like with the biologics and the specialty medications, those take a long time and to get FDA approvals on a lot of these biologics and stuff. What is that time difference for an over-the-counter product?
Yeah, big, huge time difference, right? If you're creating a new medicine, a new molecule, then you're having to go through phase 1, 2, 3, so much money, so much time, clinical trials, all of this. And so that's a long process. There is something out there called the FDA monograph, which is a guideline on what the FDA already considers trustworthy ingredients. And as long as you follow the monograph and their rules, then you can create a product using those ingredients and already claim that it treats what they've trusted it to treat. So there's still, like I said, you want to have an FDA consultant because you want to make sure that you're following the rules of your label and your packaging so there's still a lot of hurdles, but nowhere near the amount of time that it takes to make a completely new medication.
Yeah. I know it seems like it would be intimidating, when you hear FDA, like, oh man, there's a lot of restrictions and guidelines that you have to follow. But there's still so many other companies that also are compliant with the FDA requirements, but also look at like European countries, because a lot of those ingredients that are on the US list are not included in other countries as well. Do you consider that as well?
I personally haven't looked into the European guidelines yet, but that I'm aware of, there's nothing in our product that would preclude us from being able to go there. I think there's additional labeling that has to occur as well. And so I think you'd have to have the drug facts panel for the US and then additional labeling to be sold in Europe. The interesting thing is that now shopping is worldwide, right?
Yeah.
We've got Amazon and we've got people can just hop online and buy stuff. But you do have to be aware that there's restrictions for especially things that have drug facts panels on them. And so you want to make sure you're kind of staying within those rules, coloring within the lines.
Right. Yeah. Where can they find Restore Scalp?
We have our own website, so it's restorescalp.com. And so we're available on restorescalp.com. And then we're also on Amazon. And we are available in certain dermatology clinics around the US. So if there's derm clinics that are interested in carrying our product within their dermatology office, we have wholesale pricing for clinics. We're also in numerous salons across the US as well. And and growing, we're just trying to get the word out, but we are already offered in derm clinics and salons across the US. So
that's amazing.
It's been exciting to build.
So what's next? What's next for you? What's next for Restore Scalp?
We are continuing to try to get the word out. So we're a bootstrap company. And so that means there's not a whole lot of money behind our marketing right now at this point, which makes it a little bit more difficult to grow and spread. But we're going to continue to message that Restore Scalp's here. And then at a certain point, I think maybe next year, we're going to work on another product. So I have a brain full of about 8 to 10 more products I'd like to bring to market. So there will be a brand built around it, and they'll all be a little bit unique, like Restore Scalp is within the medicated dry shampoo space. So
maybe a regular shampoo and conditioner.
There's some exciting things coming. I think we just have to make sure that we're growing at a pace that we can kind of keep up with. And so sometimes that feels like a snail's pace, but we're going to get there.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Well, thank you so much for joining me and sharing a little bit about Restore Scalp. And it's been amazing to hear your story and what you've created. And I know that so many people are going to benefit from your product. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Janelle. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was really fun.
Now a message from Sun Pharmaceuticals. For patients with locally advanced basal cell carcinoma who are not candidates for further surgery or radiation, hedgehog pathway inhibitors offer a targeted systemic approach. Staying current on these therapies can help you expand options for appropriate patients. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me and listening to That's Derm Good. You can expect new episodes of That's Derm Good every week. The podcast is available on your favorite app, including where you're listening right now. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. Bye.